That's the way you have to think about content marketing. User first, and then what do they want to talk about, not what do you want to sell them. You need to be ready that only 20% of what you put out there is going to work. If you're not providing information gain on top of what AI already knows with your thoughts and approaches, why put it out there? I think it's going to create a world where every small business, every entrepreneur has to be a content creator. It's just, you're going to have to do it, just like to have a website. There's no way around this. Even if you're not a big fan of AI, use it. Just understand the language. It's almost like a good manager has to learn how to delegate, or a leader has to learn how to inspire and lead his team.
Today, we are going to talk about content marketing and how AI can bring it to the next level. And content marketing is to bring your business and product closer to your clients and to get sales. So it consists of getting awareness and then the sales. They have specialist and expert for that, Chuck Aikens. He created free tools titled wavecontent.com, where he helps entrepreneurs and businesses to bring content marketing to the next level with AI. There are so many things to consider. There are so many marketing channels, so many social media channels. It can be really overwhelming. Could you explain a little bit about the content marketing and AI and like the core, what is the most important thing to understand?
Well, I know that social media, search engine algorithms, if you sell on Amazon, produce on YouTube, whatever it is you're doing, like it can be a lot. So when I'm talking with somebody, I don't dive right into that. I actually back up and I want to understand their target audience, who their persona is, not only who they are, but what their problems are, what their challenges, aspirations, the why they would care about an entrepreneur's or brand's product or service. I'm going to spend time there first because I'm a curious marketer. I'm a technologist. I've studied algorithms for years. I've ran an agency here in Denver for over 15 years that I sold recently. But what I really try to do is not only understand the audience, but these ecosystems of Google and Meta, of Amazon. How are they built? Why are they doing what they do? And they care about the end user too. They want active users on their platforms. So it kind of all comes back to what does that audience want, need, and how are you going to deliver that to them through your brand promise? That's what I'm trying to figure out before I ever think about content or where I'm going to place it.
Could you dive deeper into this first step, understanding the target audience? Do you have some approach, strategies, tools?
Yeah, so there's advanced tools. Like over the years, I was always an advocate of doing customer interviews, right? Go ask your customers or prospects and get to know them. That's a great exercise if you have the resources, both human and capital, to do that. But in today's world, my approach is just by answering a few simple questions of thinking about getting into the head of your audience, you can build personas for your marketing campaigns in minutes. Actually, the first tool that I provide on Tidal Wave Content, it asks you 14 questions and it builds a target audience persona. What I tell people is we don't need to get super specific, but we can segment out and create different personas. I like to see even small brands and entrepreneurs possibly have 2, 3, 4 personas. Documenting that. In the old days, we would say we could document a persona so that a person could keep that persona in mind. A writer, a producer, whoever is your creative or art director, they could be like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about Timid Teresa or Happy Henry, whoever it is that we've built as a persona. But today, the personas are used to give AI direction. So as we leverage AI, and I go and do things with ChatGPT or with Claude, a little bit of Gemini, but not much, I'm always uploading or attaching my knowledge base, 1, 2, 3 personas. That way, the tools that I'm using understand specifically, it's about a page and a half of information about your persona, but all of a sudden it understands and can have more direction and clarity when it's producing your content. Understand and document who your target audience is, and then why. That's step 2, why they would interact with you. What are their challenges, problems, aspirations. What are the benefits that you bring? What's your value prop? What's your brand promise? Right? Once you understand that, who it is I'm trying to target, and then what I'm telling them I'm going to do. All right, now we're starting to put the marketing foundation in place so that I could think about content and I could think about how I was going to connect with them online through different types of online content.
So suddenly it's much clearer which kind of content and which kind of social media, if you understand who your target audience is, if it's a mother of two children sitting at home, like taking care of the children, it's a different approach than if it's a teenager, 15 years old, 16 years old, and so on, or if it's a business owner. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You not only have to think about in the persona build where they're going to consume their content, but then even what type of content. And then not only what type of content, but then how they prefer to interact with you. In the old days of marketing, our only goal was to get someone to a website and get them to buy a product or generate a lead. But in today's world, it might be a DM. Someone may interact with you right on that social media platform, and you have to be ready for that. They may want to watch a video of you first, like that. That's why you and I do the podcast. A lot of people want to dive into topics and really listen to experts, not read another blog post about it. They want to understand what's going on in the head of the person here. So that could be another way of establishing a connection. I can tell you many times I've had someone that I've met in real life. We never did anything digital. Sometimes analog. They just came up to me, maybe at the conference, or I ran into them and they're like, I watched the podcast. I want to talk more about that. That is not only where are they, but how they consume content. What is it they're consuming? And then also, how are they going to interact with you? What if somebody actually called me? I wouldn't know what to do. I actually would not know how to answer the phone these days and how to handle it. But, maybe that's the way that person decides to use technology and they want to talk to somebody. These are a lot of things to think about as you put together your marketing channel, because it's going to get messy. It's going to get really confusing and hard on any platform you decide to compete because it's so noisy. But if you can understand who it is you're targeting and what you want to say, we have a chance. We have to go at this hard with a little bit of scale so we can make your message stand out, and for you to build first that awareness in any ecosystem, on any platform, whether you choose to compete in Google search, on Facebook, Amazon, LinkedIn, YouTube. We need to know who it is you're targeting and what are you going into that marketplace, that platform, that ecosystem with.
Do you see common mistakes that businesses and startups are doing in terms of content marketing and social media marketing?
Yeah, it's not so much that it's a tactical mistake. If we're honest, we make a bunch of those every day. The biggest piece of this is that I see people start in the middle. In the world of AI, I can't tell you the number of times that someone goes, oh, I have an idea for a blog post. I'm going to go to the prompt. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write it for me. Oh, that sucked. Well, of course it did. Why did you think that you could sit down? Not only even if you had everything planned out, you can't do it in one shot. But to think that you would just go in and say, I want to do this. Once we know the persona and we know where we're going to go to find them and how we're going to act with them, what I tell people is that we can now plan for a wave of content. That's why I call it tidal wave content. And around it, usually a single idea. And it could be informational. It could be more your differentiators in the consideration phase or thought leadership. I actually try to mix in a little bit of those if they have the bandwidth. But if they don't, I've got to figure out, do we need to build awareness right now? Or do we need to work on kind of like in real life type content that helps people understand how you can help them specifically? And then the last piece, the thought leadership, is usually, why would I do business with Will or Chuck or Amy or whoever it is? Or if it's a brand, why would, that's that last little bit. We've got to kind of think through what is it that we want to go out and put out there, because there are constraints in time and capital. I don't run into very many people that say, just go make content. We have a budget, we have frequency goals, we have targets, KPIs, like we're trying to do a lot with a little. So we need to just think for a second, as opposed to just going to a prompt or going to a singular piece of content and saying, okay, this is going to be the one. I had a good idea.
It sounds like this title from the book, Jab, Uppercut, or something like that.
Oh, right. Yes.
So one post is not enough. No? You always have to have a series of posts around one idea, and so that the audience interact, because not everyone sees the post, or is there other reasons for that?
Well, I mean, you're exactly right. I'll talk about what I have the most experience with, because when I came into the industry, Google was just developing their first advanced algorithms. If you fast forward to today, the Google algorithms have moved away from backlinks, which was their way to initially gauge authority, to a concept that they call EEAT, which is expertise, experience, authority, and trust. You can look it up. It's part of Google's people first helpful content guidelines that they produce on their website. But you need to be able to show Google, which means you got to show the algorithms, that you are first an expert and that you have experience, you speak about it and have built authority online, and that they can trust you. And there's different ways that they gauge that. But the only way to become a topical expert is to put out content that they can read, that they can find, that they can see. Now, that still involves backlinks and citations and different items, like Google will come across this podcast, right? It'll be Chuck Aikens talking about content marketing and AI. The frequency at what I do this not only gets the word out so that I have awareness, but it teaches Google that I'm an authority. The same thing happens in social media. When I do that same thing, or we take our podcast into LinkedIn, and if I consistently publish around content and AI, my different posts, and people interact with them, LinkedIn starts to learn that I'm an authority and an expert. And the reason that matters is LinkedIn wants to have, and Google wants to have, or Facebook or IG or TikTok, when you're getting into the different channels, they want the most popular and strongest influencers that put out the best content on a topic to rise up to the top, because it makes their product better. They're just curating and merchandising all the crap that we produce and trying to put it in front of people for a great experience, so they keep coming back to google.com or facebook.com or TikTok. Like, why would someone keep coming back? It's because of the content. And the content is driven by us, right? So we just got to figure out, well, Google, they want to put the experts at the top of the rankings. You just got to show them you're an expert. That usually for most people means becoming super niche, becoming a leading voice in whatever that niche is, and then, producing a decent amount of content, enough that you can establish your authority. If you pick a topic that is broad and has a lot of competition, it's going to take more work. If you create more of a category of one blue ocean strategy, you can have your authoritative voice on a topic or subtopic much sooner, because you're the only one talking about it. But that takes some thought. So you could produce 100 pieces of content and never succeed. But if you pick the right topic, what you can specialize in, that your audience cares about, that could drive you some business, find that, and you might become successful with 10 pieces of content.
That's a very valuable and strong advice. Let's imagine a client comes to you. For example, we could say, okay, he has a learning tool and wants to promote it. And maybe the target audience are 25 years old, ambitious people who want to develop their skills. How would you proceed? What would be the next steps?
There's a little bit of a discovery process. It's not very intense, but usually in about 30 minutes, someone can articulate what it is they're trying to do, what it is they've built, their little baby. And we have to think, like, all of these features and benefits and all the cool things that it does. Let's look at the persona and what are the real challenges here? And I'll just make up, maybe we decide that because of the target audience, it's a learning platform, but they figured out that there's a specific type of learner. Let's say it's not good for coders, but for whatever reason, management likes it, like HR people or operational managers. I would start thinking through, what does an ops manager or an HR person need from a learning platform? What is the biggest challenge? If you talk to them, you might find out that actually curating and putting together the learning content, like the curriculum, is the hard part. Now, maybe the software that we're talking about or the client isn't a curriculum builder, it's a technology platform. But we might need to build the content around how to build a curriculum to put on the learning platform. Like, we have to get adjacent to the actual thing, because if you sell your actual product, that's not helpful. My real problem is usually something else. What is my real pain point? And how might you approach that? And then how does my software or service or consulting bring all that home? If I were in the situation, I didn't wake up this morning with the problem of I need new software. That's the last thing I need. What I need is a more efficient training program that isn't hard to set up and that people will actually enjoy watching because the content is engaging or has been thought through. So then what I would go out and do is write articles or put out messaging. It's not about the platform, it's about the experience. This is how you create a great onboarding and training experience. And I'm making this up. I have no idea what your case was, but you hear the thought process. There is usually going to be a topic, a wave of content that needs developed that is a Venn diagram overlap of the target audience and what you do to create the awareness. Then you can get into consideration. If you want to put together this curriculum, we can help you think through it consultatively. And then when we arrive at your 7-hour onboarding learning platform education, we can build it on our platform. And so all of a sudden you've helped them solve a problem and led them to your solution. But you had to meet them out there where their problem was and what they were trying to solve. What most people do is speak in first person, not second person. When you're making content, you often want to be in second person, not talking about yourself. You want to put them at the focus. Same thing here. So much of marketing is about the use case and the solution. We don't spend enough time with the problem and how to solve it, which is great awareness, top of funnel. Because then someone's like, oh, okay, they have an understanding of what my problem is. Maybe I'll give them a little attention. What are they selling anyway? That's the way you have to think about content marketing. User first, and then what do they want to talk about? Not what do you want to sell them? You can do that later. That's why it's a journey and there's phases. We all want to ask the girl out on the date too quick or try to lose 10 pounds overnight. This doesn't happen quickly. I'm not saying it's going to take forever, but even if it happens in a short period of time, there's still a thought process that goes through. Do you understand me? Do you get my problem? How do you solve that? Do I have interest in what you're offering?
What happens if my target audience has different pain points that I am targeting? Should I choose the biggest one or should I cover all of those in social media content?
Well, it would be particularly in a walk before you run to cover them all. Usually the first pain point is not the right one, but you only know that by making your first pancake, right? As you move along and you get out there, you'll get the feedback. This is one misuse of KPIs, meaning that when a KPI comes back negative, people say, oh, I picked the wrong thing. No, you didn't. We figured out what not to do. Let's say take a social media post and take Facebook for $10, $20, $25 even. That's usually the most I want to do. I could take the entire feed for the month. Let's say it's 10 or 12 posts max. And even just say it's $10 each. I could put it all into the marketplace. That way I get into the ecosystem. So there's a little boosting. So I can put all 12 posts past the paywall and into the algorithm. I do this on YouTube as well. And basically what I'm looking for through impressions, clicks, whatever other actions I may be monitoring, I'm trying to see not only what the person does with it, but what the algorithms do with it. If the algorithm likes it, you're going to get more impressions. If you spend 10 or 20 or 25 equally on all 10 posts. So it's a very complicated, not A/B test like you would do in advertising. But if I put all 10 out there, or if I put 3 video clips on YouTube and then give them all $20, first I see what the algorithm thinks, but the algorithm is driven by what the users do. I can start to see what the users do. So a real world example is every time I do a podcast, I make 3 cutouts, all of about 2 minutes. I put them all into YouTube. One of them will get 500 views. One will get 1,000 and one will get 10. Guess what? I learned through iteration what the algorithm and the people like better by putting the content out there. You need to be ready that only 20% of what you put out there is going to work. But that 20% over time creates a lot of assets, goodwill, and momentum in the engine, in the algorithm. And you'll start to learn which pain points, which problems both the algorithms and the people like. And if you gravitate towards that, you'll find the right message on the right platform, right person. You'll start to hone in your messaging. And that's what we're looking for. When we say all this, I know it sounds like a lot of work. And 2 years ago, it was. I mean, you need to hire a small army or have a small team to do it. Well, today you don't. There's so much efficiency being brought through AI and automation and processes that if you can figure out your ideas that are unique to you that you want to get out there, you can start to leverage AI to help you, not do the work for you, but to help you so that you can say, all right, if I can put in 5 hours a month, 5 hours a week, whatever it is, I can get more output, but I have to understand what AI does and what I do. That co-creation is something that I coach and teach people through. Like, how specifically do you use AI for research? How do you enrich the content? And then importantly, how do you then, before you publish the content, put it through a little bit of QA real quick using AI to make sure that you're on brand, on message, writing guidelines, and that you can kind of ask AI at the end of the process, is my target audience going to like this? Is it on brand? Did I write in second person, use active voice? Did I eliminate all the AI type language? Like, there's a process in the beginning to generate your base copy. Then you do work. And then at the end of the process, AI can also help you QA it, because I'm not sure everybody has editors or creative directors and art directors that they want to look at this. You can have AI do your last check as well.
That's a very good tip. Is there anything else you should consider when using AI for content generation? Are there some common mistakes that people do?
Since ChatGPT and Claude are both large language models, I want to let me keep this to copy, not Midjourney, Dolly. Let's like that. That's a different thought process. Even like we were talking about video editing and how that with Descript in different platforms has changed. But just in content, the biggest mistake is that when a piece of content, whether it's an email, a white paper, a blog post, a social media copy, whatever it is, they're using AI and they think it's 80% of the way there. And it's not. But what it is, it's a great first 1,500 words. When I think about a piece of content, I have multi-step prompts. The opening and the hook is written differently than the second section that defines what it is we're talking about. The third section of the post starts to get into why this matters to you in the approach. And then the meat of the article, the step-by-step instructions, are the comprehensive content that's put together. So even content structure, like when AI spits out a blog post, I can always tell it, it's here's 5 topics, and in each 5 topics, there's 3 paragraphs. It's just answering the question. A product like GenSpark.ai that builds pages for you, it's just accessing all the knowledge, curating it for you. That's first copy. I mean, you could produce a blog post, or I can go to GenSpark.ai, or I can just query AI myself. How are you making this helpful? How are you putting your thought processes into it? And it's not hard. I even built a little custom chat GPT. I'm about to put it on Tidal Wave that just says, take this base copy. How do you make it more helpful against the Google guidelines? Because if you're not providing information gain on top of what AI already knows with your thoughts and approaches, why put it out there? They want it to be helpful to the user. They don't care if you use AI or not. And they want to know, what are you bringing to this conversation that Google and OpenAI don't already know? If you're just regurgitating the same old stuff, you didn't add to the collective knowledge. You didn't put content out there that someone will want to consume from you when they can get it from everybody else. This is the piece of let AI, it's great at, I mean, you can research within minutes what used to take hours to say, okay, this is table stakes. This is my starting point. How would I add to this? How would I enrich it? How do I make it more helpful? How do I use it to connect and change the thinking of the person consuming it? That's the next step. And when you know that's your goal, you got the stuff that AI put out there, then you throw your thoughts in there. And honestly, it's kind of a mess, which is why you need the third step to say, okay, I have a process to clean it up, merge it all together, and just to make sure that I'm not crazy when I mash together this Frankenstein of content. Does the audience like it? Am I on brand? Am I on guidelines? Am I on strategy? Real quick, I have little custom chat GPTs that can check that. It'll tell you like, hey, you kind of lost me in the third paragraph. That wasn't very clear. I'm confused. And then all of a sudden, you clean that up a little bit. You do that a few times and you have something that probably reads pretty well, or looks pretty good, or would be helpful. Like if I send it to you, you'd be like, oh, there's a couple good things in there.
I sometimes ask the AI, how can I improve? Which questions do I need to answer so that it can give more value? And then I sit and answer those manually. And that's, I think, like you said, if you only use the AI content, it's just what is out there. And you have to introduce some new thoughts. It's the same with books. If you just rewrite what is happening
Yeah.
out there, it's boring.
Yeah. What you just talked about, I would encourage everybody to do this exact thing. Write your copy, ask those questions like you did. And then for anyone that didn't catch it, you held up your hand like you were talking into your phone. I use video for this all the time. Brand managers, content creators, and entrepreneurs. If they can't do it themselves, but you could, listen to them what they do. I research it and then I ask them questions. And I do a 45-minute session with them and I ask them like 15 questions. That transcript and the quotes, when I ask you, all I have to do is overlay the base copy that AI produced and then start putting your quotes in there and what you uniquely think. Now, you could do this yourself, but a lot of times people don't have time and they don't really know. My most common thing that I do when I meet with a smaller entrepreneur on a quarterly basis, usually the first thing we do is a 45-minute Q&A session. They don't know why I'm doing it. I kind of explain. I'm like, watch what we're going to do, because out of one 45-minute session, we could create 3 to 5 blog posts, 10 to 15 social media posts, small video clips. There's your content wave of your unique thoughts. I just needed to get it out of your head. I call it knowledge extraction. How do I get out of your head what you do uniquely in the world? Because you wouldn't be in business if you didn't have a unique approach. How do you represent yourself, and how do I help get that out of you so that you can be quoted, you can have the video clips, you can still have all the information just like everybody else, but that's what makes you different and why people would buy from you. So you're kind of doing education, your approach, consideration, and then even thought leadership all at one time. But yeah, I mean, a real strong, powerful technique right now. You could do it yourself, ask yourself questions, but a lot of us do a lot better getting asked questions and just responding. The interview tactic right now with recording is a great way, at least when we're talking about professional services and people. It's different in the consumer world. You usually need user-generated content, but then I'm often interacting with the influencers of a CPG product or talking to end users to create the content. For my clients, after I interview the founder and a key employee or two, I want to talk to customers. I'm going to record it and we're going to get not only testimonials out of it, but we're going to get content. We're going to get real use cases in the real world of people solving the problem we're talking about or that we've identified, so that others, you mentioned a mom earlier. I mean, how much more powerful is it for a mom to be sharing her experience through a led conversation, and then quoted? Or I have a client and they sell tinctures. So I've interviewed herbalists. I've got a client that's a university. I interview the professors and also the students. This is how we get real human content to overlay on top of the AI so that it works, it resonates. So while AI made us more efficient, at the same time, I doubled down on humans.
That's really deep. We forget about that sometimes with all those technology and everything is being done automatically for you. There is human and also the algorithm. Everyone is obsessed about algorithm on YouTube, on Google search and social media. But in the end of the day, it's all about the humans. They make the decision if they want to consume the content or buy your product. So the next step would be to find the best marketing channels. Or would you recommend keeping the same example with the educational app or software? Maybe we have even 2 different types of clients. We say, okay, we have end users who use it for their purpose, or even HR who is B2B who will use it for their company. How would you approach in terms of choosing the right marketing channel?
So there is choice between the different channels. An important piece of prioritization. People sometimes mix these together. If you want to be on every platform, that's okay. But what I'm looking for, where is your audience and where do you want to be an authority? And there isn't a right or wrong answer necessarily. If you want to become an authority on YouTube, okay, we can work with that. I'm not going to say it's better or worse than Facebook or LinkedIn or IG or TikTok. But we first have to get a priority stack. Is there a reason to think about Reddit? Is there a reason to think about Twitter? X? I don't know. But let's think through this first, because in the beginning, it's hard to build this up on every channel because it's not just about publishing. It's about interacting in the system. Because what LinkedIn is doing, for example, they're thinking about how often do you comment? What is the length of your comments? Not only how many people have followed you in the last 2 weeks, is this temporal? Even if you go and post, but are you part of groups and active? Like being active on the platform is very important to them. So you're going to have to choose to be active on the platform. The same thing is true in X or Twitter to a degree. Like it's gonna heavily weigh your community involvement. Not so much on IG. The algorithm's different, but you need to know if you pick these different channels, you have different commitments you're making, and you just can't do it all. Now you can put your content everywhere. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But if I'm working with you and you've made LinkedIn, Twitter, and IG, whatever, we're going to be testing more there and building community more there and doing more interactions overall than the other channels. Now, sure, if you want to do it all, great, but you usually need to have full-time social media people, even an agency, if you're going to go guns a-blazing on every platform. But I think you should be found to get your handles, put it everywhere, but be really clear about where you want to be found. And this is the most curious thing. When people stack their social media icons, either on a link tree or on their website, I want to see the same prioritization. It's like if you lead with IG because you want people to see your CPG product in the real world, IG's for you, TikTok's for you. Then why did you lead with YouTube where you haven't done an unpacking video or a testimonial and whenever? Understand and make sure everybody involved in your marketing and that they interact with you understand where to best find you and where you've committed that time so that you show the best. Quick little tips will be, when I do heat maps for clients on the homepage, the first thing I do is to look and see how often they're clicking social media icons, usually at the top of the page. You would be surprised. Your first social media icon is often the second or third, usually no lower than fourth, most common clicked item. Why? Because they see what's on your website. They want to see what's on your social media. And they just click real quick. They just want to understand who you are. They're not going to go to your about page. That's too merchandise. That's too curated. They're going to pop your social media and go, do I like these guys? What are they doing?
Could we go through different marketing channels and social media channels, including SEO, and see the advantages and disadvantages and the user cases, when to use, when not to use?
I'm an SEO guy. The first website I ever built, I built it accidentally, meaning that I was building it to help my mortgage business. Because when I came out of school, I got hired on to hawk mortgages. So I built some mortgage calculators and put it on a website called Mortgage 101, gave my calculators away for free, accidentally got 20 or 30,000 backlinks. The first time I ever went to Google, that website ranked number one for mortgage and did for the 10 following years. It's how I learned SEO. I say that so that you know why I've put so much into SEO over the years. And when we think about this, the process and technique in SEO, when you have your persona, I know it sounds simple, but you have to think through keywords and questions and make sure that whatever content you're producing has search intent. And in our business, we talk about keyword volume because I can take a topic. You and I can talk for 45 minutes. There are going to be keywords and topics in here that people would be searching that I could write about. But I need to understand what those are. It's the common language that gets built. And then once I identify that this is the topic and the keyword, I then have to say, okay, using what I know about natural language processing, semantic knowledge, how algorithms work, I have to research this topic. And it's not that I'm optimizing it. People always say, ooh, I put my title tag in my each one. It's like, yeah, we need to do that. But we have to be comprehensive. We have to have a take. We've got to develop this out rather quickly. Or else, if you don't do this, you're going to, even as an authority, you're going to end up, if you don't do this pre-thought research real quick, and it doesn't take long, you can check the existing SERPs. Okay, if there's already 10 good articles, why am I talking about this? Or do I have something to add that is more helpful or information gain? Okay, I have something. But as I dig deeper down into the topic, I've got to realize where I want to take it. Where I was going is that if I don't get search visibility, what's it all for? I would rather have a keyword with hardly any volume that I can be on the first page, if not number one for, to build up my authority, as opposed to chasing a higher volume keyword. I call them long tail keywords, the one that I want to chase, and be on the third or fourth page. What does that get me? Google doesn't then start to build the authority. I don't get click-throughs. I don't get impressions. If I pick all the smaller, less covered topics, I can eventually get there. And I could go for a higher volume keyword. But that just having that understanding of like, we could talk about a topic, but it's having that take that has search volume. That in finding that, it takes a little bit of work. But once you do and you start to build this, you start to build that traffic flow and you start to build the authority through that. There's a similar concept if you think about social media. I've used LinkedIn a couple of times here just because it's currently what I'm working on quite a bit, is that there you not only have to think about the content, right? And it's good to know that there's search intent. Okay, I can use my SEO thinking to get down to the right subtopic. But then when I go into LinkedIn, I need to make sure that I have active relationships and connections so I get likes and comments so that it shows up in other people's feeds, right? I've got to figure out how to get through there. So then I have to really start thinking about, and then I wonder how to make this interesting to my community and followers through some type of hook, or maybe through a quick 60-minute video that I add to the content, right? And these are the thought processes you go through, but it actually is a lot easier once you understand your content wave, what you're trying to accomplish, what those pain points are. As you start going through this, you start learning these little items, because even when you jump into Facebook or YouTube, where you're going to show up more in a feed as opposed to the connection web that happens in LinkedIn, I mean, you get one shot. This has got to happen in the first 4 hours. Like, you get people's attention. How are you going to get the engagement? They're not going to come back probably 2 days later. There'll be some trailing impressions and clicks, but man, I mean, you got to be ready to go and really bring it when you go into Facebook and want to jump into somebody's feed. Like, you got to really grab their attention. So these are different execution tips that happen. And I know we haven't talked as much about AI and automation, but you first have to work your way through what are these different processes and things that I need to go. So there is still knowledge, and experts can help you get there much faster. AI can help you produce it, but you have to systematically think about, I don't know how you promote your podcast necessarily, Will, but there's probably 12 things you do after every podcast episode. If you're producing a blog post that you're going to then distribute on social media or a content marketing strategy, maybe it's a video that you did and you want to put it in different spots, you have to understand before it happens, what are the 8 steps I'm going to go through? Once you understand that, you could start to automate it. You could even bring AI into it. I've got a little custom chat GPT. You throw it the video or throw it the blog post, and I'll make you a LinkedIn, an X, a Facebook. I'll make the content for you real quick. Just having that figured out. Now, do I copy and paste that and publish it? No. But if I'm going to do that 10 times a week, I can add automation or help my clients or people that I work with provide the tools with that kind of automation so that they can focus on knowledge extraction, thought leadership, enriching the content, and then being active in the communities, not writing the base copy for the tweet. So that's where AI can help us, because it's hard. Like, it just sucks. I mean, for anyone who thinks, even you and I who do this all the time, sometimes I hate it's so hard to ship something because there's so many things I have to do. The more I can be like, oh, okay, I got some help. I have this little tool or this website that I use that helps me do something. It gets a little wind behind my sails and lets me truly enjoy what I'm producing, not dreading the drudgery of all the tasks I don't want to do.
Other situations where the client comes to you and says, okay, I want this particular channel, for example, search engine optimization, focusing on being on Google's search. And you say, I don't recommend it in this time. I would recommend a different channel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing though. There's business strategy, there's marketing strategy, and then you have channel strategy. I break it out. What we have to kind of figure out is this important to the business for some reason? If it's important to the business for some reason, I'm not going to let a marketing channel discussion override that. Maybe for whatever reason, I work with a lot of natural food products. Maybe Sprouts, or Whole Foods. I don't know. I don't know what brand I can say that you'd recognize as a US brand. Maybe they care about how many followers you have on TikTok. So maybe TikTok isn't the best place for you to be, but maybe the business needs it. Okay, just tell me that. But that aside, let's go down to the marketing level, because the first is a CEO conversation. And if the CEO says it and it's a business strategy, marketing and marketing channel strategy, someone has to get in line. And it's hard to override business strategy. Now, at the marketing level, if I'm interacting with a CMO, a brand manager, or even just a sales-led small organization where the CEO does the marketing, if we're having a true marketing channel discussion, a true marketing strategy, and we're saying, what are the most important channels and which ones should you be on? I start to then get a lot more vocal. Now, if we get down into a channel where I have said this is not the best use of your time based on my understanding, I will be curious about it. And I will say, okay, if we're going to do this, here would be how I would approach it. And it usually is a little non-traditional, because if they should be there and it's a good platform for them, then we could probably follow the standard playbook for their industry to reach their audience. If not, we might need to get a little creative so that it makes sense that you're there. Because, and I see this problem a lot with brands going into TikTok. They just don't understand it and they don't know why they're there, and they've made mistakes, right? It's just not understanding that not only the platform, but the ecosystem and how people consume and use the platform, that you just want to go in there, not disrespectful, but close, and just start doing your own thing. That's what I'm usually more worried about. But I will say, okay, if we're going to do this, and I will say this is going to be tricky, we then get curious about how could we make it work if you want to do that. But I need to figure out, like, is this the marketing director's initiative because they just think it's the shiny new toy or the thing they saw at the conference? Or is there a business need for this that I'm just not seeing and you were told to do this? Those are two very different things. But, the same way the CEO or leader of the organization could also go to a conference and just decide that I've got to be in this new platform because they tend to want to chase and do everything. But no, plenty of times I speak up, and I just want people to understand when they go into these worlds, you don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to be successful in YouTube," or I'm going to get a ton of SEO traffic. It's not that easy. The people who are successful today, they put plans in place 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Like, they've been working on this for a long time. You don't get to just show up at the party or come into a new group and suddenly be the leader. You can't just enter a platform and see the success. You got to understand how to build into it. And you build into it by contributing, right? Either content or your thoughts or comments even, but you need to be contributing, which is usually slows most people down.
From those marketing channels, SEO and social media, are there some channels that give faster results, or the opposite? If you are a startup and start from scratch and you want to test your business idea, you want to see, you only have half a year, would you not recommend certain channels?
Well, no, that's a great question, particularly when you put 6 months on it, because I don't know what word to give it. I don't have a label for this, but every algorithm somewhat starts with distrust of a new brand. It just makes sense. I mean, if a new website or a new person just shows up compared to someone who's been around for a period of time, if I were a programmer or I was trying to figure this out, I don't know that I would let somebody just show up and have free reign. I can tell you something interesting that happens in the YouTube algorithm is that it gets excited about you for about 2 weeks in the beginning. I actually think they do this to encourage you. Like, all right, we'll give you a free pass. Come on in. You're the new guy. I'm gonna hook you. And so your first couple videos seem to always get a lot of reach. And then they go, okay, party's over. You got to work now. So many people tell me this story, and then they get discouraged and they go away. Same thing. There's a similar thing that happens on LinkedIn where you just I can't tell you the number of people who say they just had to pound and grind away for 6, 9, 12 months. Everyone's like, why does SEO take so long? It's the same thing. I mean, like I tell people, as soon as you can, launch a website, put up a homepage, put about us in one blog post, because then the time starts aggregating of you having a voice. So that makes 6 months really hard. If you need, that's why every one of these platforms have an advertising model, right? That in original, why would they make it easy for you to jump in there when what they really are trying to do is monetize all the great content for people to spend money on? Unfortunately, if your window is that short, you're probably going to have to spend some dollars. Now, you can overlap the two, because if you're producing content, I can boost it on social media. I can promote it on YouTube. I can run ads and boost on LinkedIn. So I can kind of have this, let's still do good content, but I might have to put a little bit of money behind it. But I mean, everyone's like, well, I don't have money. Well, if you don't have time and you don't have money, we're up against this. Like, we have a problem. I will grind for years with you and get you there. But 6 months is tough. And most people actually, the reason they get into a 6-month bind, they didn't plan for it because their product or service or business didn't show up today without authority and relevance online. They've been doing this for 6, 12, 18 months, sometimes longer. You thought about this too late. You've got to think about this in the beginning and just do some of the foundational work to get started and make sure you're scaling up your content marketing and your authority at the same time that you're building out your product, you're refining your service offer ladder, you're starting to grow the business or the brand or your content creation strategies. You can't wait. You've got to do the groundwork in the beginning, or else you get into a time problem where you can't get there fast enough.
Let's talk about different types of content: awareness, consideration, and those that lead to sales. Maybe an example on LinkedIn or in general.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to type of content, well, first you have the different formats. You have copy, creative, which I kind of say everything you make in Photoshop, and whether that translates to an email or translates to a postcard, it's all creative. And then you have video. And I'm intrigued by video content at the moment. You heard me mention one technique where using video, I can do knowledge extraction to create informational/awareness content at scale. And I do think that layer where you're kind of, I don't want to say you spray and pray, but you kind of do. You don't know which pain points are going to resonate for which people on which days or what. So just lay down. And I think it should be high frequency, lower quality, answer the questions, put out the content, just be a great resource in whatever you're talking about. But the keys that I want to say is high frequency, a little bit lower content, but still it's got to be against guidelines, on brand, on message. I want to go to the last one, which is low frequency, high fidelity, high content, which is the thought leadership. Am I going to do business with you? I have never done business with somebody without either an in-person or COVID and post-COVID, spending some time with them in Zoom or in video, usually kind of in person. So the key there with video is that if you can get yourself on video, people do start to build some trust. They know they like you. Like by the time sometimes that they do get in person or you have a one-on-one call, they've already experienced some piece of content that you put on your website. It could be high fidelity, 45-second founder or product driven, but it also can be stuff like we're doing right now. You could take video clips from that and just let people get an experience for you. But I think going forward in the future, as AI develops even more, for someone to buy, they got to see you, or they got to see other customers, other humans that like your product and give the testimonials. I hate to call it that. It's not what influencers do when they endorse or interact with a product, but someone of influence can be there in your stead. Then the tricky part, and the one that's usually hardest to figure out, is in between awareness and, hey, do I like Will? Does Will know his stuff? And I'm going to bring him into my small world of business people that help me achieve my goals. That usually is in that consideration phase where they do start to pick up some of your content. Maybe they sign up to your newsletter. Maybe they follow you on one of the platforms, and they start to see what you're talking about over time, and they see your approach to specific things. So if I kind of mold those together, it's like, here's the underlying problem and some information about it and how you could maybe even solve it yourself or go buy it yourself. And then intertwining in the middle piece of content, medium frequency, medium quality, not high fidelity yet. How do I actually help you solve problems? Like, for example, I might do a video that is the 7 steps to do a blog post. That's different than awareness, how to get your blog post to rank in Google, where then the real consideration might be, how do I meet with you as a client and help you develop a content wave? And I show you a demo of my platform that helps organize you and the 10 people that might be involved. I'm making up that'd be a very complicated piece, but that's how I think about the different waves and how I think about the content, because you're going to use different KPIs for awareness. Probably high impressions might not generate that many leads, might not generate a lead at all. But if I put out something that's high fidelity, thought leadership, human connection at the bottom of the funnel, I may not get any impressions, but I might get leads. Just thinking about what goes into it and the amount of time. I could do an awareness piece in the next 15 minutes. a thought leadership piece, I'm going to work on for 45 days. So it's not only format of content, it's intention and what you want it to do along that customer journey, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. It's like most people, if they put in those three type of waves, high frequency, informational, usually then focus on the last mile and then fill in the gap between. We've got our three waves of content. And then we think about where we're going to put it because so that the audience can see it and consume it. And we have a content marketing strategy. And then we say, okay, here's the automation and the processes and the AI. Because what used to cost you $5,000 a month, in total time, and I'm making up a number, it's 1/5 that today. You can get it done either through your time or bring other people, and you can get it done for a lot less investment.
Why is it important to have those low quality pieces of content? Is it for the algorithm or is it to get as many people to see your posts?
Yeah, and I hate to use low quality. I just find that what the difference is that it's just you need to focus your attention the right way. And I see people pouring over like hours and hours writing this perfect piece of content for awareness. No, I want you spending hours on your messaging, on your website, on your contact form, right? On the last mile. That's where I want you iterating and agonizing. And most people don't want to do that. They write their value props once and they're done. Like the number of times that someone updates their e-commerce product catalog, their SKUs, or they update their service pages, they never do it. They're so fixated on the blog post or LinkedIn post. I'm like, no, this is high frequency. We're just getting it out there. You need to put your time and energy into once you get someone interested, how are you going to, as they move into consideration and making a decision, that's where I need your time. It's about, look, I can research and write 80% of the informational content. I just need you to point me in the right direction. Give me some quotes. Tell me your unique take. That's not where I want you spending your time. I'm a marketer. I can take care of that. I need you. I don't know how to say the words, how to put together the imagery, how to get you on video to convert that traffic. I don't know what your secret sauce is. It's hard. Like only you make your spell special. But at the awareness phase, I'm not saying that I could do it, but if you challenged me, I could probably put out 100 pieces of content on any topic out there. If I had 3 or 4 interviews with you to overlay quotes and enrich the data, like we can put that out there. That's where I kind of say, so it's not so much that it's lower quality. It's just, it's put together different. It has a different purpose. And what I really want to focus people on is it's high frequency. And more importantly, know the difference when we're in another wave. If we're in a consideration piece that might be used to move someone down the funnel, or if they're making a final decision, that takes more collaboration, higher fidelity, higher quality, but we don't have to do it as much. And often it's evergreen, like your service page or your SKUs. Once we work on those, you don't have to redo it. Whether it's on your website or an Amazon product listing, once we get that baby looking good, hey, we've probably made a change in your conversion funnel. That's different than awareness.
So you put a wide net with your awareness posts to get as many eyeballs as possible. And then you focus to create a really thought through copy to convince them to buy from you.
Right. You have 2 different thought exercises. And AI can help you with both.
Yeah.
That's why, like I kind of mentioned, when we built a persona, we thought about the brand promise and the value props. That's actually to help write the conversion data. And then what I can do is I say, hey, AI, now that I know the persona, the writing guidelines, the brand promise, and a general content strategy, we can go to AI and say, what are all the awareness topics? What are all the questions that are being asked that actually would lead to the value prop? And what I typically do in any 15-minute session, I look for 7 ideas. We pick 3, we write them. We go back, 7 more ideas. Now I might have 7 Uber ideas above that in different categories. It's not difficult to build out the content that you're wanting to produce over time, and then start thinking about how your waves of content are going to build this. And once you kind of have that together, it all becomes, it's not easier, but you understand how each individual blog post or video clip or social media post kind of fits into the overall strategy. Now you're thinking about it. And in today's world, the AI is only going to get smarter. When we can take this kind of blunt strategy, we can use AI to sharpen and fine tune it in every piece of content and also help us see the gaps, give us new ideas. Like the ability to work through this, like I said, is so much easier as a craft. And we have the science of AI. But if you understand the art of prompting and how automation and processes work, like you combine all this together, I think it's going to create a world where every small business, every entrepreneur has to be a content creator. It's just, you're going to have to do it, just like to have a website. There's no way around this. And if you're going to do that, and we're all out there throwing up content, we got to be thoughtful about what's my take and where do I want to plant my flag so that I can have lead flow or I can have sales and revenue. Like, this isn't about a post. This is about figuring out 2025. We're doing this in late 2024 in case this get picked up later. But what are you going to talk about to get people's attention? And that turns into content marketing. And then we can use AI, and we will use AI. Or the people that use AI will have such an advantage to the people that don't. It'll be so binary. It doesn't mean you can't succeed if you don't understand it, but it's almost like you have to put it in your content marketing, in your ops, in your sales processes, a recommendation engine, in your product catalog, whatever it might be. You've got to get AI going here or you're going to get left behind. And my lead is content, even though I can talk ops, I can talk sales, I can help with those. I build tools and help people with AI automation outside of content marketing. But my deep knowledge is in content marketing, SEO, social visibility. So that's where I can overlay not only deep AI automation and processes and things like custom chat GPTs, but I actually understand the craft of content marketing because it's what I've done for the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. So much valuable advice. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
I think the biggest challenge I see out there is adoption. And what I mean by adoption is, even if you're not a big fan of AI, use it. Just understand the language. It's almost like a good manager has to learn how to delegate, or a leader has to learn how to inspire and lead his team. You, as a professional in any way, you have to understand AI, and to understand it, you have to use it. That's the thing right now. If you're in a company or a brand that involves multiple people, you're going to have people that love it, hate it, get it, don't get it. You have to fight through this. I mean, you just do. It took me, I was doing AI before a year ago, January, when OpenAI changed the world with the release of ChatGPT and it becoming mainstream. But I mean, I interact with brands and teams every day. And by far, adoption is the biggest issue right now, of just, we get a little glimpse of it and we're just not sure what to do. Just keep moving forward personally, in personal use, in your own use professionally, to do different things. And then also as a brand, small or big, you've got to be working use cases right now. We shouldn't be to big problems yet, but we should be thinking use cases. How to record your sales calls and have findings from that. How to set up knowledge bases for customer service. I mentioned a recommendation engine, or even the prompts I have to take a podcast and create content with it. These are things that I figured out by playing with AI. And it took me, I mean, honestly, I still learn every day, but it took a good year to really understand what I could and couldn't do, and to start leveraging it to make myself more productive and more efficient.
I think some people, they try ChatGPT with a very simple prompt, create a blog post, and it doesn't look good. And they say, okay, ChatGPT doesn't work for my content
Right.
marketing.
Right.
I've heard
Exactly.
this from my clients. Like they reacted allergically when I said, yeah, I can use ChatGPT to or Claude or some other tools to improve the efficiency of the content marketing. And they, no, it's really bad quality. But in the end of the day, you just need to use it properly, and you have to educate yourself how to use it and improve yourself, like with all other channels and all other tools. And then there is probably no choice. You can either go with that or you will be left behind.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Chuck.
Oh, it's
It
been
was
fun.
such a
Well, thanks for
pleasure.
having me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.